Okay, working on the lathe, same as always, safety equipment, safety glasses, things do come chunking off, spit in your eye, earmuffs like that guy over there, parts of the machine, headstock, tailstock, it's pretty easy to remember, looks a bit like a head, maybe not, tailstock. In the headstock is the live centre. It's called the live centre. This is between centres turning. This is the live centre because it's attached to the motor, which is down under there. This is the tailstock with the dead centre. It's not attached to anything, just free spins. Bed, tool post, tool rest. Work. Now, I get the students to put a black line on their work so that they can remember where to realign it. Black line lines up with black line. It doesn't quite line up perfectly in this kid's case, but there you go. Okay, so black line lines up with black line. Tailstock slides along the bed, slide it up to near enough, lock it in place by pulling the locking lever up. That should be locked, and then undone a half a turn. That's all it needs. Wind the tailstock or the dead centre into the end of the wood. Make sure the teeth on the live centre are engaged in the timber. Double check that you've got plenty of pressure on there, not too much. Lock it up, double check it's locked up. There's your piece of wood. Always rotate it by hand, make sure there's no slack in it. Rotate it by hand, all good. I'm just going to do a little demo here on how to turn a few things. Okay, so first of all, we'll get the small tool rest up close. I'll see if I can move that in a little bit closer. The rule of thumb is that depending on the cutting tool you're using, you have the cutting tool at the centre line. The centre line's there, centre line's there. Good position for the small gouge, detail gouge. Bad position for the roughing gouge because the cutting edge is way above the centre line. The roughing gouge is for taking it from square to round. Detail gouge for cleaning up the surface. Skew chisel for doing straight lines and chamfers. Parting tool for parting off a piece of wood. Dust extractor on. That's my straight edge. That's what I'm going to use to keep me going straight. Typically, you hold it at arm's length, the tool, detail gouge, hold it at arm's length, bring it up to the tool edge, up to the tool rest, keep it at the same angle, backwards and forwards until you've squared it off and leveled, or until you've rounded it off and leveled it down. If you don't keep your finger running along there, you've got no depth control. You're in and out all over the place. It takes chunks out all over the place. So we don't want to do that. We want to go nice and neat and nice and or not. When I touch there, yeah, it's only just touching the edge. Now if I run that along there, keep it parallel. So what I'm trying to do is keep the chisel at the same distance all the way along. I can use the skew chisel, mark my position there, mark my position there, mark my position there. First thing I'll do is just at this point here I'll do a bead, but before I can, that's a bead there, before I can do a bead we need to take away some of the timber on either side. I like to rotate the tool when I'm using it so it reads the edges evenly. Just by eyeball, they're almost down at the same level. Now that I've given myself a centre mark to go off, guess I've got something to judge up against. And then we can use the skew chisel to take a little chamfer off here, a little chamfer off there, a bit more of a chamfer off the end. And just bring that around. Okay, so there's our bead. A little bit of sandpaper will clean that up nicely. Not quite level, but the quality of wood turning we do here for a mallet handle, that's fine. And nice and neat. Okay, back onto the skew chisel, and what I'll do is take this level down, and that's where I want to do my cove. So notice this detail gouge, the edges are cut right back, they're not coming up square. If you end up with a gouge where the edges are coming up straight like that, this is all but impossible to do and you'll ruin the work. Take the nose in. Voila. I'm going straight. So now bring this edge up, go downhill, and then downhill again. And there's our cove. I could go a bit deeper. I think I will. Hopefully I won't wreck it. Sometimes I do. And if I do, well, that's the way it goes. Then we can get in there with the paper. Whatever you do, don't wrap it around your finger. Hold it loose so it can pull out. Dust extraction on. And take the dust away. And then you can either sand on top. I think I prefer to sand underneath on these detail parts so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just shaping that into a radius so I can get into there. There we go. Two things you need to polish up the surface with some wax is the wax and a rag. Nice soft cloth rag, cotton rag if you can do it. I rub the wax on by hand, not too much wax on there, you don't want big blobs of it because when you turn the machine on it'll come flying off. Again, none of this, hold it loose in your hand. Again, I'm not wrapping it around the hand, I'm just hitting it on the hand. So if it tends to grab and spin around, I'll just very quickly let go of it. If we want to put a burn line on it, just as a little decoration, mark in the wood, give it a bit of width, take the middle out. Okay, so we've got a nice little indent there. Thin piece of hardwood, we get that in there, give it a bit of pressure, friction carbonises the wood, and we end up with, I haven't done a great job, there's some bits there where it's missing, but as a demo you can see how that works. If you do it properly, you get a beautiful black line in there, sand the surface, wax over the top of it, and then you've got a detail line where you can have two detail lines in the middle of your handle or whatever you're happy with. So, wood turning 101, basic instruction. When you're finished, turn off all the power, get some of the junk out of the way, take your work off the lathe because the next guy's going to want to use power off, power off. Yes, I also wonder why that's there.